This video features working with map features, especially in a large scale mapping, where we want to change the actual orientation of the map page. As a default, the orientation of the map page is just going to be essentially the top of the page, the top margin of the page, reflecting sort of a true north orientation. So if we want to manipulate that for some reason in large-scale mapping where we're close to the features and we don't have a lot of reference to, say, a global mapping scale, we may want to do a manipulation to the data frame. So I'm in, currently I'm grayed out in layout. I'm actually in data view. If I do a right click and go to data frame properties, it's going to show me under general tab that I have no rotation on my data frame. Now for Manhattan, if I want to get the features to be, or the avenues to be perpendicular to my map page, what I would need to do is I need to rotate that, and that's known as to be 29 degrees. So I'm just going to type in 29 degrees here and we'll see my feature change for Manhattan. So I apply it and say okay, so that gives me an upright now position, and this may be useful for very specific mapping purposes where you're trying to produce a map, say for the orientation of the larger page or for some specific reason where you want to rotate the features. Now if I go to my layout view where I'd actually be producing this map, we can see that I have my data frame here, and currently I'm rotated at 29. Now if I want to go back and go to properties and go back to where my default positioning is, I would do rotation 0 and say apply OK, and we can see that it goes back to that default positioning. So there's two places that you can make this change. Once again, in data view, or you can also go to layout view, and as soon as you're in layout view you would just click on the data frame itself and then go to properties, and you can make this rotation transformation right here with underneath the general tab. Okay, so hopefully this is helpful getting some control over orientation. Be very careful if you are going to do this that you do include a north arrow, because north arrows as a default, we assume that it's going to be pointing to the top of the page with no manipulation, and if we want to actually change that, we need to make sure that we're putting in a north arrow. So in this case, if I were to insert north arrow, it's just going to point to the north. That's the correct positioning. And if I am making a manipulation on this data frame, so if I go to properties and make the manipulation, I want to make sure in layout view that I do have a north arrow, because this is where a north arrow becomes very important, where we're saying, listen, we've done a manipulation to the standard default positioning, and we can now see it in my north arrow pointing 29 degrees off to the west there. So hopefully this is helpful in final layout view when you're producing a large-scale map that really requires some transformation in terms of the orientation of your features in the map.